The next pen is in this handy carrying case. It has a handle. I can move it around. I can set it down. I can pick it up. I can slide it open, get to the pen. This was made for this pen by a friend of mine who collects and is an expert on tramp art. And so he made this for me. And the next pen in my show and tell is in this box. Some of the time. Some of the time it's in my pocket. Some of the time it's in my hand. But I just thought you'd appreciate its little casket. Its little display case it's in. So before I show you what the pen is, it's a pen, it's a magical pen. It's a pen that I hated. I hated it here and there. I hated it everywhere. I hated it in a box with a fox. I hated it everywhere. I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. Every pen of its ilk that I bought, I ended up selling to the Bromfield Pen Store, which they sold to their loving customers. I had loving customers that bought them. I asked them, I said, what is it about this pen that you like? And they would explain it, but I never got it. I never understood. And one night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I said, oh my God, I get it. I get it. I understand. I understand completely. And I went from hating this pen to loving it. And I have mentioned it to other people who also shared my opinion. I hate that pen. I hate that pen. I hate that pen. I'm never going to like that pen. I'm never going to like that pen. And then I'll get a call in the middle of the night, and they'll say, I get it. I understand. I love that pen now. And that pen, what pen is it, do you think? What pen could I hate so much that I would hate it? And it's a pen that didn't seem to have a purpose in its life, because it couldn't do what I wanted it to do. And what is it? It's a Parker 51. And I have been converted into loving this pen. So much so that I drew a picture of this very same pen for Pen World magazine years ago. And the picture is here. It's the launch of the Olive. The back of the pen, the cap, the stern of the pen here. The clip, as you see, has not been attached yet, but the Olive is seen in the distance there. And Olive, I like pens with names on them. I refer to them. This is my Nassau double-ended Nassau green sterling capped Parker 51 with signet band. Yawn. I'm taking Olive out today. People know what that means. It's this pen. So Olive. And it's sort of neat that Olive is written in a script that this pen could never write. This pen doesn't know how to make those kinds of lines, which is why I never liked them. But one day, after the customer left with the 51 that they wanted, I continued to play with them. The 51s that were on the desk. And I know I said that this happened in the middle of the night, but it probably didn't. There was a time when I finally understood how it worked. This is a pen that Euclid would recognize as a pen. It has a point that looks like a dot. It's not a big honkin' nib. It's a dot. And it makes a line that looks like a line. It's not a calligraphic line. It's not one of these lines. It goes thick to thin. It's a line that does not vary, or it varies very little. And it's just an amazing pen. When I want to write something that I haven't figured out yet, when I want to think and put my thoughts onto a piece of paper, this is the pen I use. And I might even, pardon me, I might even choose to use this one. Sorry. This one this is the sort of 51 that I think of. When I think of 51, this is the one that is pictured in my little brain. It's a dove gray, or whatever gray they called this, with the lustrelay cap. It just fits the time and color scheme of that age, I think, the age that when this was built. And it just is perfect, a perfect version of this pen. Not the mustard, not with the Empire cap, not the Nassau green with olive, but more this pen. Now I'm going to pretend that this is the one that we're referring to, because that is, I love that pen for many other reasons. But this one, I want you and you and you and you to think about the 51. Think about the lowliest 51, the 51 with the fewest bells and whistles. And this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a pen that is lustrelay cap, aerometric fill, essentially an idiot-proof pen. And I'll tell you what you're supposed to pay attention to. First of all, it's such a beautiful shape. There's, the difference between the diameter of, from where you'd put your fingers all the way back is very minimal. You can sort of move the pen back up and down in your hand without bumping into things like a big honkin' cap band or stuff like that. It's very, very ergonomically designed. And another thing that it has, it's the only pen, it's among the few pens that have an aural quality. Not oral. We know all the pens that have those. There's teeth marks to prove it. This has an aural, A-U-R-A-L. There's a sound that this pen has that no one, all the pen experts, all the pen people that write about this pen, they don't mention the aural quality. And that is the sound that it makes. The cap, when you slide off the cap, I don't know if you can hear it, but get your 51 out and you can listen to it yourself. This metal clutch ring hits the metal clutch on the inside of the cap, so it's this metal against metal. It's this, I don't want to say scraping sound because it doesn't scrape. There's just this metal, metallic sound that you hear. When you post the pen, it's a completely different sound because it's the plastic of the barrel meeting the plastic of the inner cap. And there's a snugness, a really reassuring snugness to that sound. And when you put the cap on the front of the pen, that sort of metal sound, it's like when you're, I've never done this in my life, but when you're what I can imagine when I'm cocking a gun, and I'm lifting up the bolt and pulling back the thing and putting in the shell and pushing up the bolt and locking it, or whatever one does with guns. The sound of the metal against the metal is really, really somehow reassuring. Yes, I know you have this big gun that you can kill someone with, and that might be reassuring to some, but the sound of the metal against the metal just you have this machinist love. If you worked at a lathe all day long, that noise that you hear when you do that is what you want to hear. The lathe mechanic, machinist would say, "Oh yeah, that's going to stay. That's going to stay put." So this pen has that going for it. Well, let's go back to Olive again. This pen has those things going for it, in addition to the fact that it is this beautiful Nassau green, and in addition to it, it has this lovely engraving that makes me smile and inspires me to make art. And normally, though, when I use a Parker 51, I'm not making art. I'm making words. And I can pause. I can think of the word I want. I can start writing the word I want. And then I go to the next word and write that one. There's no seductive nib saying, press me hard to make a pretty line. If I was writing that same thought, those same thoughts using this pen, I'd say, can I turn that verb into a gerund so I can make a nice G? I-N-G. Rather than saying, I worked on, I would do it all in the whatever tense it is where I was working. So I could say the ing word. All of my letters would have verbs as those ing words. What are they called? Do your research before you think. See, now if when I use this, I'm not seduced by that swoopy G. I make my G look like this. I tend to, my handwriting is awful, regardless of what pen I'm using. My calligraphy is okay, but my handwriting, this focuses my attention, just like the nib, onto a point. I think well when I'm using these pens. The notes I made for this video, for use, were made with the 51. 51s are a Johnny one note nib. They don't vary too much. Now this one does have some variety based on pressure, and I love a 51 where I can flip it over and I'll have a thinner note on this side. So many of the 51s in my collection do have a little tiny bit of flex, and I love when they have that variety from one thickness to another. These are all things that Euclid might not appreciate, because a line is supposed to be just one width. It can be any length, but it can be only one width. And here this pen can make at least two widths of line, as you can see. However, because I'm so restrained, I don't do calligraphic stuff. am focused on what I want to say with this pen. When I'm using this pen, I actually think more clearly. It's just amazing. I have more of these 51s than I have of any other model of pen in my collection. And they're not all double jeweled. They're not all mustard yellow with empire caps. Many of them are the simple later ones. And I just love them. And if you hate 51s, if you hate them, one day you're going to call me up in the middle of the night. You're going to say, I understand. I get it. I get it. I finally get it. And when you get it, you think, how did I not know that? How was this hidden from me? Everything is right here. It's right there. You just have to expand your expectations to appreciate something. So the 51, whenever I see a 51 in my pen collection, this reminds me of a time where the pen taught me something. It surprised me. Normally you think of a collector as a person that is creating the collection and amassing the collection, and you're in charge. But this pen reminds me that, hey, in this particular case, I'm the one that seduced you. I was in charge for a little tiny moment, and it remains in charge. I love 51s, and I used to hate them.